Okay, let's look at round two. This is July 5th. My round two game. Let's find it here. There it is. Okay. I was playing white. Switched over to white. Let's look at what's happened. E4, D5 center counter. I take him off. He takes me off. I attack his queen. He went back to D6. The common moves are either queen to A5 or queen to D8. Even though D6 is playable, the continuation, I found out later, suggests that you develop your king side first. What I did was place my pawn in the center. C6. Even though it's playable, it denies the knight his natural square, usually because they want to avoid having that knight pinned by the bishop, and it may ultimately slow down the development of the rook. So we want to watch to see how those queenside pieces are developed. F3, developing my king side, pins my knight, breaks the pin on the knight, starts development of his king side. Now I want to develop in such a way to take advantage of the queen. So let's see if I actually achieve that. E3, I put another protector on the knight, and more importantly, I'm going to put the queen and the bishop on the same diagonal and look at the possibility of threatening that queen. Right now I'm trying to decide, do I castle king side or do I castle queen side? I think if I castle queen side right now, I'll be able to stimulate a pretty fast attack with B5 and A5. So I'm not sure which way I want to go. So he didn't have much of a problem developing his queen side at all. Now right here, I think I should take advantage of being able to harass the queen, attack the queen here. Queen moves to B5. I can attack it again, sacrifice the pawn. I castle out. Bishop pins my knight. I attack the queen. Takes off the knight, take off the queen, take off the queen, take the piece. Sounds like I come up even though my pieces look like they may be in a better position. Or maybe I'm piece down. I'm sorry, pawn down with a better position. Or I don't have to actually go through that. Attack his queen, queen plays over, castle right away. Queen takes the pawn, attack the queen, plays off, and get my pawn back with the rook on the 7th. I should have taken advantage of that right now, but I waited. A3, now I'm threatening to trap his queen, that's why I waited, which probably wasn't the best of ideas, because if there's a defense to it, especially easy defense, you might find yourself in a worse situation, which there was. And now, instead of getting this queen exposed, I'm looking at an exchange of bishops, which isn't too bad because he's not really developing a piece, and I'm simply getting a piece out of my way. So I decided to castle queen side. The analysis strongly suggests castling queenside for an advantage, or breaking this pin for an advantage. I like castling queenside because it puts my rook right on the file of his queen. But I didn't do it. I played more conservatively. I knew that was a conservative move. I gotta stop doing that. So I castled, he castled. Everything is determined to be even. So I continued. It's a hard decision where to put these rooks. If I play rook to E and D, or if I played rook to D and left this rook floating for expanding these pawns. Trying to exchange off the bishops and get my rook, get my knight into the center. Start some active play. This is one of the principles I'm trying to get a grasp of. He played bishop once, twice to get my queen where she wanted to be anyway. I wanted to be there so I could have this rook coming right across from the queen. Sometimes I can build up a tactic. So the idea that I'm playing with in the opening now is not making 2 or 3 moves to get your opponent to the place where they want their piece at anyway, and vice versa. Hard concept. Yeah, he makes a move and forces my knight to go where he wanted to anyway. Now, if you look at those moves, my rooks were able to double, and my opponent's position really hasn't changed. He's moved his queen out and moved her back. I take his rook. His rook plays off the open file onto a closed file. It's a very difficult move to do, to give your rook even less mobility. You always have to be very careful of that. The computer suggests rook come to d5. Rook to d8, and the computer is giving white the advantage. Oh. Giving white the advantage and suggest that white goes ahead and makes the mating threat right there. But I didn't do that because I thought the defense was too easy, even though that does not defend it. Knight could take. Queen might have to push back. I played c4, and finally black got tired of having to deal with a pretty much cramped position. So he tried his break at e5, I'm sorry, and it really doesn't work. Takes the pawn, takes the rook, I take the rook, and I saw all of this, and I also saw that if he tries to win that piece, he's going to lose his rook. So he didn't, and he takes that pawn, which puts him 4, 5, 6, gives him the pawn back that he gave up a few moves ago. The problem is white threatens mate and threatens to catch his loose knight. So let's defend that mate threat. Does that by capturing the pawn. Now, what happens here is he's also threatening the pawn at b2, what I didn't see because I didn't spend time to see it. Knight comes back here, threatens the queen, defends the pawn, and I still am on the knight. He cannot defend that knight with his queen. If he does, he gets mated. I missed that, so I went ahead and took the knight off. He takes my pawn off. From here, the computer has it as a one game. What again I did not see was the queen comes here, threatens that pawn, and threatens the rook here. What I did was, I was heading into time trouble, so I decided, might as well just grind it out in the end game. He tried to avoid it, which only made things worse. And the queen is packed away trying to defend the mate. Attack the rook. Rook avoids capture. Knight comes in, threatening to fork the queen. Queen goes back in a cubbyhole, and that's it. Check, he's forced over. Checkmate. All right, that was my round 2. So right now, I was 2-0 going into the third round. Bye for now. I got 2 screens going on.